we're talking about a very broad and inclusive agenda which includes race, ethnicity, gender, disability, faith, sexual orientation, age, social class and education, and regionality. And as was pointed out by Leslie Hawke in her earlier speech, a lot of the issues around diversity in all those strands are underpinned by social class. I think it's a common theme which is becoming much more, people are much more aware of in the UK now than they used to be. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the BBC does, and then I'm going to show you a film which is actually about regionality, about the fact that the BBC is moving several large departments out of London, BBC Children's and BBC Sport being the two biggest departments, to Manchester, which is a city in the north of England, because research has shown us that the further away you live from London, the less you believe that the BBC speaks to you and represents you. The BBC has 6 public purposes, which are sustaining citizenship and civil society, promoting education and learning, stimulating creative and cultural excellence, representing the UK, its nations, regions and communities, bringing the UK to the world and the world to the UK, and delivering to the public the benefit of emerging communications, technologies and services. So looking at the demographics, the UK population is approximately 60 million people. The black and minority ethnic population, the current estimate is that 13% are from minority groups. Recent estimates for England suggest that the mixed race group is growing the fastest, accounting for 1.7% of the population. The largest category within this group is white and black Caribbean. 70% of the UK describe themselves as Christian. 1.6 million approximately are Muslim. Of the over 55s, there's 19.8 million, or 34% of the population. And disability, 1 in 5 people. 1 in 5 children in the UK under the age of 5 is of mixed race. 22% of babies born in the UK have a mother born overseas. And approximately 30% of London's population and 15% in the West Midlands are from an ethnic minority. The ethnic minority communities are not evenly distributed around the UK. They tend to be concentrated in urban areas. So why do we think diversity is important? Diversity for the BBC is a creative opportunity to engage the totality of the UK audience. The BBC is a public service broadcaster funded by a unique licence fee payable by all sections of UK society. The BBC's future depends on being able to reflect the reality of modern Britain in an authentic way. The audiences that we serve are increasingly diverse, as I've just demonstrated with those statistics. Our competitors, commercial competitors, are also investing significantly in reaching out to connect with diverse audiences. And the BBC aims to be the most creative organisation in the world, and diversity is recognised as one way of accessing new ideas and perspectives. Also, within the UK, there's legislation that we need to remain compliant with. So there's the Disability Discrimination Act puts a lot of onus on us not to discriminate in any way against disabled people. We have a very clear vision for the future. We have specific short to medium term diversity outcomes, and we hope to achieve longer term cultural change. But really, really importantly, and it was mentioned earlier, you have to be able to demonstrate clear and measurable progress both internally and externally. So we measure and we record and we report and we evaluate. For the audiences, there's been in the past, the BBC has been accused of making programmes for themselves, for the people like the ones that work at the BBC. And we've not connected as well with our audiences as we should have. So we've done various pieces of research, and Talking Disability was a piece of research carried out in partnership with Channel 4 that is also mentioned in the initiatives list that Melissa referred to earlier, and that was about informing, finding out from disabled audiences and people who have disabled family members or whatever, what they want from the BBC and from Channel 4 in terms of on-screen representation and their representation in the workforce. And we're also currently doing a large piece of research on portrayal and inclusion of lesbian, gay and bisexual audiences. And the BBC News, because we recognise that the majority of people, even in this multimedia age, still are getting their information from television news. BBC News holds regular feedback sessions with focus groups from diverse audiences to get a sense check on how stories are being covered, what's being missed, sort of ensuring that the journalists in BBC News are actually meeting some of the people that they're reporting on, which is really important. We have workforce diversity targets. All these stills actually are either from content or related. So our black and minority ethnic all-staff target is 12.5%, which we are pledged to meet by 2012. Currently it's at 12.2%. We employ 23,500 people, so we're talking about just over 2,000 staff from minority backgrounds. And we have a senior management target of 7%, and currently it's at 5.6%. We also have a disability all-staff target, which is 5.5%, and we're currently at 4.2%. And the senior management target of 4.5%, currently 3.3%. Gender, 49% of all BBC staff are female, and 35.7% of senior managers at the BBC are female. That's the end of my slides, and I'll show you the film in a second. But the reason I'm showing you those and showing you the workforce figures are we really do believe that who you have working for you makes a huge difference in terms of what you produce. So it's really important that the organisation is reflective and representative in terms of its workforce of the audiences that it serves. And as I said earlier, we're moving several large departments out of London to the north of England in order to ensure that the BBC is more representative of the whole of the UK and is not just London-centric. I've got a short film here which I'm going to show you, which touches on some of the initiatives that we've put in place to ensure that the BBC North project, as it's called, will be diverse and inclusive, and that is in the broadest sense. So we're talking about people from the regions, people from different social backgrounds, and also people from different ethnic backgrounds.
Sue, are you fine? Someone wants to ask you a question while waiting for the film?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, my name is Ognjan Zlatov. I'm coming from Bulgaria. I saw in your initial statistics, you started your presentation that there are 1.6 million people, Muslim people by religion.
Yeah. I
think is this figure correct? Because like practical observation shows that I think perhaps my observation is that at least 10% of the population of Britain are Muslim, rather than 1.6 out of 60 million.
If your observation was in the streets of London, that's correct.
Well, not only in the streets of London, but let's say if you go to places like Birmingham or
yes, but as I said before, there's concentrations within certain urban areas. And yes, that is true. If you live in London and you don't travel anywhere else, you think that England is an incredibly diverse and inclusive country. But if you go to, say, a town like Carlisle on the borders of Scotland, you won't see any diversity. So you can get a very distorted view of what the UK is like. But Islam is the fastest growing religion in the UK, and actually that's because a lot of white British people are converting to Islam.